All right, welcome into Patriots Press Pass. John Zannis, Taylor Kyles, film analyst for CLNSmedia.com and working over at Next Gen Stats for the NFL. We're going to talk about the Patriots and the Browns, Taylor, and look ahead. Another cupcake, maybe, but also another get-right game for the Patriots, who are still kind of figuring out their identity, and then very likely another Bailey Zappe game, but we'll see. There's still some intrigue in terms of what's happening. This show is always brought to you by our sponsor, Athletic Greens. Arm yourself, your immune system, with convenient daily nutrition with Athletic Greens. Go to athleticgreens.com/garden. Get 5 free travel packs with your first purchase and a year supply of immune supporting vitamin D. So Taylor, let's get the big question out of the way that everybody's talking about, the quarterback controversy in New England. You've got, I know. So whatever it is, for whatever reason, that's just kind of where people's brains go. You see Bailey Zappe go out. Patriots play probably their cleanest game and beat the Detroit Lions 29-0. I mean, it should be pointed out that they really didn't have an offensive touchdown until the second half. They got that, the defensive score from Kyle Duggar, and really the offense wasn't doing a ton. But at the end of the day, the stat line looks really clean. Bailey Zappe played a very clean game. Patriots ran for a ton of yards. The defense was great. Belichick got in Jared Goff's head. Bang, 29-0. Everything looks great. So we get to Monday and everyone's thinking, I wonder what happens. Is there a controversy here? Is there any world in which anything you've seen from Bailey Zappe, and you, more so than most people out there, after the benefit of having seen game one film, you were like, that was not great. Now you got a little bit more tape on Zappe. Is there anything in your mind that tells you that that he could possibly be better suited to quarterback this team over the long run than Mac Jones?
Not a single thing. And I'm going to start this by saying I was extremely impressed by Zappe last week.
Yeah.
From where he was against the Packers, that it just emphasized how terrifying it must be to be a 24-year-old playing in Green Bay, in Lambeau's Field, against Aaron Rodgers on short notice.
Right.
Because he clearly was much more calm in the pocket. I thought he was more accurate. There were times he missed a couple downfield opportunities, but I mean, the guy played, like you said, a clean game, and that's what you want from your backup, especially a rookie. Don't put the ball in harm's way. If you make a mistake early in the down, can you make up for it and take something so that you still get a profit? I thought he did a great job at that. That being said, this offense is taking a step back to what it was last year, where it really is the run game, play action. You're protecting your
no risk,
rookie
no
quarterback.
Shots. Yeah,
exactly. He took a few shots downfield, but I mean, none of them were catchable. Those were really throw up a prayer. That's I got Devontae Parker out there.
Yeah.
Some people were speculating whether he'd even do that, and we did see him draw a few flags. But with Mac in the game, those are closer to being completions. Now, I was even looking right now on TV where they were saying Bailey Zappe has 100 passer rating and Mac Jones has a 76 passer rating. That's because Mac Jones has been trying to get this whole downfield passing game started. He's been going downfield more than most quarterbacks in the NFL. I think he's got at least top 2 or 3 in air yards per attempt and deep pass rate. So the offense clearly wasn't going to be as efficient when you've got him trying to see what they can do early on, what they can't. And there's still probably going to be some level of growing pains, although we did see in the Ravens game, outside of them turning the ball over, the offense looked the best it's looked all season. I think it looked better than a lot of what we even saw last season. So they're doing very different things with both quarterbacks. Mac allows him to be more aggressive because he's more talented. He can do more on a snap-to-snap basis, where ball placement, execution under pressure, a lot of things that Zappe may be able to do with consistency further down in his career, but the Patriots aren't asking him to do a whole lot. And he's, to his credit, like I said, he's done a really good job taking advantage of the opportunities that they do give him. But it's not a contest. And I just clean your ears, get that out of your heads. There's no world where Bailey Zappe unseats Mac Jones. That's
is crazy. There, like I said, is there anything he does better? And that's the thing is, it would be different. I would understand the controversy, quote unquote controversy. I would understand the discussion if Bailey Zappe had a different skill set per se. Right. If he were an extremely mobile quarterback and you thought, oh, this is interesting, this opens up some new creative opportunities. If he had a huge arm, but was erratic, if there was something enticing about Bailey Zappe, there isn't, physically speaking. He doesn't wow you physically at all. At best, he's Mac Jones light, right? Which is a person coming out of college whose strength was judgment, ball placement, decision making, things like that. That's what Mac does. That's what he's got a PhD in. So I don't know what Bailey Zappe does. I don't even know what it is that people would be attracted to even have the conversation.
The only thing he's done better than Mac to this point is not turn it over.
That's it.
But again, like I'm not gonna
byproduct of what you're trying to do. It's harder. Right. You're more likely to fall down if you're standing on one leg balancing 12 dishes than you are just walking in a straight line. They had Bailey Zappe walking in a straight line. Of course he's not going to fall over.
Yeah. And again, like I don't want to excuse some of Mac Jones' turnovers. Like he's had ones. It's like, dude, like Zappe should be doing that. You don't expect that from him. He's definitely had some horrible decisions, but at the same time, the good far outweighs the bad. It's one of those things where he's like, all right, new year, what can I do? What can't I do? So I think the turnover thing is a little overblown. If it continues, obviously that's another conversation, but it's not a contest. That's ridiculous.
Yeah. Okay. So we'll move on from that. We'll look at some other things that kind of played their way out on the field, and not necessarily to say controversy, but an area of interest for Patriots fans is Tyquan Thornton, who returned to the game and saw limited action, but he saw action in his first game back from a broken collarbone. And again, I think the fact that he came back so quickly off IR and the fact that he got thrown immediately into the game plan means I really do believe that they have visions for him this season, and they want to get him integrated quickly. And then you see someone like Nelson Agholor, yet another week kind of, I'm not going to say puke all over himself, but, come up short in a big way. And again, I can't say critical spot in a 29-0 game, but you start to wonder, and I wonder whether you think this is possible, whether Thornton starts to kind of creep in on Agholor's snaps in this offense, if not eventually overtakes him completely.
I think so. So Agholor has largely been taking over Jakobi Meyers' role, not on early downs. He's not really a great blocker. That was where Lil Jordan Humphrey came in, where you'd see Devontae Parker.
Exactly.
Nelson on passing downs is the guy they put in the slot, running all the crossing routes, where a lot of the offense was kind of going through him when they were in their 3 receiver sets. He flashed. And that's the thing about Agholor, is that you were hoping this year, maybe he'd figure it out. You'd see more consistency. And there was more consistency than what we saw last year because his role was pretty reduced because he was an X. They kept him outside. He only ran like 3 routes, and it's harder for him to produce given his skill set. But the turnovers, man, that it's gotten to the point where you can't excuse it. This is 3 times where he's had really bad turnovers in big spots. And, I've been trying to pump the guy up. Me, I try to look at the good, and I'll take the bad into consideration until it gets to the point where it's, now you're getting into dangerous waters. He's got strike 3. And Tyquan Thornton was clearly someone the offense wanted to feature when he was healthy, get him involved. And we saw him in training camp get snaps with the starters. So I really do think there's a good chance. Their skill sets overlap pretty significantly. So I do think there's a chance that we see Tyquan start to sneak in there because Agholor has had really great moments, but the bad ones have really cost the team. And luckily against Detroit, it didn't cost them on the scoreboard. They were still able to pitch the shutout and the defense stepped up. But at this point, you got to start to think his role has to kind of shrink down. And at the same time, you've also got Kendrick Bourne, who, didn't get it. I got into it, but they're competitors with Belichick on the sideline where he had the false start off motion. I believe he had one other penalty or miscue. So, there's a lot of inconsistency outside of Jakobi Meyers. And I think Tyquan Thornton has the ability to potentially, you see what he's doing because he was getting open in that game against the Lions. They play a lot of cover one, a lot of one-on-one man coverage. And I put a compilation on Twitter. You could see the patience, the quickness, the suddenness. Like he knows how to get open. He doesn't really look like a rookie necessarily. There was one time in the preseason where I think he took the wrong release. He should have gone outside. He went inside and it kind of muddied up the read for Mac Jones. So I don't want to, put him on too high of a pedestal. So people think he's just going to come in and be perfect. There will be mistakes, but it's one thing when it's a rookie who's growing in a system and another thing when it's a veteran who's doing things that, you just wouldn't expect from a guy who's been in the league for a while.
No doubt. Staying with the receiver position. I'm going to own this one as a big kind of bad take and mea culpa on my own part, but I've been down on Jakobi Meyers for a while, and not because I don't think Jakobi Meyers is good at what Jakobi Meyers does. I think every team needs a guy like Jakobi Meyers, but he shouldn't be your number one option because it's a little bit of a security blanket. He doesn't do much after the catch. He's not a downfield threat. I feel like it's a safe. Well, yeah, I feel like it's a safe option. Okay. I've always felt so. And I feel like when you develop that security, it actually might hamper development of other receivers and limit the amount of, shots downfield or other things that someone like Mac Jones might do, because you just lean on the guy that you trust. And everyone's got a guy on their team. But I just always thought Jakobi Meyers would be a nice complementary third receiver type of thing. And the more run he got, the more I was like, come on, let's move past this. This offense is never going to reach its potential with Jakobi Meyers as your number one. I think we have to start rethinking that a little bit based on Jakobi's play. And there was an article written this week locally, and I apologize to whoever wrote it because I can't remember to cite it, but it was Patriots teammates talking about Meyers. And they're talking about him in ways that most people don't think of him, which is unguardable was one word, ridiculously quick, able to do things, able to read leverage of defenders and get them to, lean one way and really use them the other way. And again, almost every comp was going back to Julian Edelman, who we felt was super quick, very cerebral, able to, and it's the type of receiver who can beat double coverages with this type of thing, or beat bracket coverage or do whatever, just because. And so now I said, I'm going to eat it. I'm going to own it. Jakobi Meyers, I don't know if he's a traditional number one receiver, but I'm starting to warm to the notion of him being a number one target and being okay with it.
And I mean, when you think about Edelman, we were saying a lot of the same things. Now, Edelman, his difference was that he had unreal quickness. Legitimately was one of the quickest, twitchiest people in the league.
Yeah.
And then, he had the after the catch element. So when Jakobi Meyers, it was very obvious that he slid into Edelman's role, because Jakobi kind of came out his rookie year and was the most consistent player on the team outside of Edelman. So that's when you started to see him get all the targets, everything forced his way, because he just did the right thing all the time. And we know how the Patriots work. If you're consistent, you're going to get opportunities. Where he has exceeded expectation. And to be fair, in college, I remember I loved him when they picked him up, because when you look at his college highlights, he was getting balls downfield. They were targeting him on those slot fades, and he wasn't getting a ton of separation, but he was coming down with all those catches and making some really crazy plays. So his role his first few seasons, he was only getting the underneath stuff. And frankly, when you're moving the chains, that's fine. But when it's first down and you're giving him a bubble screen, it's like,
I know. But he's also not a yak guy. He's a possession guy. He's a guy who would typically get the ball and kind of go down quick. So underneath stuff for him, if you throw it 8 yards, you're getting 9, right. So in the past.
But if that 9 yards matters when it's third down,
it matters.
You really need it.
Yeah.
Right. But that's the thing. We need to get away from, he's not Jules, but he separates the same way. And that's the thing he's done well since college, because he's a former quarterback. He is so great at knowing where a defender is going to be at the top of the route, how he's got to set him up to get open based on his release, that, knows how to, just all the things that his teammates have said. I'm not going to beat the dead horse there. But what I want to highlight is his improvement. One, I think the thing is behind the scenes is where Jakobi does a lot of his growth. And like this year, I think he's come back and he looks a lot bigger, which is one thing.
He's bigger?
He was pretty thin for sure. And, it's like, oh, yeah, this guy's quick. He's sudden, but he's kind of small. So you worry about that. We're thin, but he's about 6 feet tall. He's one of the taller guys they've had at that position. He's 6'2". Okay, so he's like, I didn't
he's 6'2". He was listed at 200. I think he's bigger now. He's like 6'2", 210. So that's the thing is, and that's why I always thought his profile would have been based off of his physical profile, and a guy who operated in the slot would have been more like a big slot Marcus Colston type receiver, possession guy, run some stuff up the seam, a little bit underneath, never really threaten you downfield, but a good guy. And that's not a bad comp. I mean, but he's basically putting up without the touchdowns, those types of numbers in terms of reception and yardage, at least on a per game average. His numbers and who he compares with right now, he's in the elite stratosphere of receivers in terms of his per game averages.
Yeah, because now they're going more vertical downfield, and Jakobi can do that. Again, not only is he like, oh yes, he's tall, and that's one reason he doesn't have that same like Edelman type quickness. Remember, Edelman's 5'9", 5'10". Like once you get up to 6 feet, you're not going to see a lot of guys.
He lists himself at 5'11", but I'm dubious. Yeah,
right. We all know he's not 5'11".
Troy Brown was listed at 5'10", and I could see the top of his head in the when I was in the locker room. So like, there's no way.
There you go.
Yeah,
they're always trying to make these guys feel a little better than the stats column. But Jakobi is the guy. Well, now he's got the bulk where it's like, oh damn, like he really can win downfield and out muscle guys. He's had the toughness, he's had the hands, but now there's a more physical element to his game on top of just the suddenness. Like when you see him off the line of scrimmage, you would think Jakobi, like, he'd get bullied outside. A lot of the time, he's so smooth on his release, he's not even getting touched. So guys are kind of catching him from behind. Then he's swatting away coverage. And he wins so quickly. And that's the thing you'll always hear about from cornerbacks. Like if I lose off the line and you're in catch-up mode, with a guy like Jakobi, that's all he needs. Because he's going to shake you just enough to get the separation at the top. And if the timing's there, it's going to be a completion. And now that they're going more vertical, he's getting more opportunities to, like we saw against the Steelers, or I think it was the Dolphins, or one of those two, I'm sorry. But you see him go up against their defender and make those crazy catches where it's like, okay, this guy is more than just an underneath threat. And we saw flashes of it even last year where they gave him, I think, 8 targets on fade routes, and he caught like 6 of them, and they were all pretty high level receptions. So, yeah, I mean, he's blown away expectations, but that's like also a credit to one, the role that he has this year, and also the work that he's done behind the scenes to improve.
Yeah. And again, the article was Nesson.com. It was Zach Cox, but I mean, some of the numbers here are incredible. It's 7th among all qualified pass catchers and receptions per game, nearly 7, 87 yards trails only 87 yards per game. And again, he's missed 2, trails only Justin Jefferson, Cooper Kupp, Tyreek Hill, Stephon Diggs, and AJ Brown. And according to PFF, he's the 5th highest graded wideout behind Kupp, Digg, Hill, and Brown. That's insanely good company to keep. So again, a good read, good quotes from the guys there. If you want to check it out over on Nesson.com, credit where it's due. Really interesting article, just kind of talking about how his teammates perceive him and how he's stacking up versus some of the elite receivers in the NFL this year. It's been really impressive. Staying on the offensive side of the ball, and again, we'll look at the Browns a little bit, but just looking ahead, a lot of things that we saw last week, have some potentially far-reaching implications. One of them being an injury to Damian Harris, and it's not clear how long he's going to be out. Patriots are playing that kind of guessing game with putting him out there, but looks like a hamstring injury. Initially reported that he could miss several games, but he's been out there in some limited capacity, so who knows? My question isn't about whether or not Damian Harris plays and how Rhamondre Stevenson fills in for him. If he does, we know he can. My question is, should the Patriots be rethinking their backfield division of labor, even with a healthy Harris, and have Stevenson on the field on almost a 2-to-1 ratio over Harris? That's kind of where I'm leaning. That's kind of where I was to start the season. I think he's all in all a more dynamic, explosive playmaker who's better out of the backfield. And I'd like to see him get the lion's share of reps back there because I think more good things happen when he's in the game. And I say this while also thinking Damian Harris is outstanding and has done a great job in all of his years here. I just think Rhamondre might be special, might be just a little level up there.
Absolutely. And it's a really hard conversation because Damian Harris is a great running back.
He's great.
Like, it's not that he's really good. And then he's great. And what Rhamondre gives you is, I think he's more slippery. Like, Damian Harris is the kind of guy who's going to run people over, and he's also got that extra gear where he can turn, like we saw against the Jets last year, that beast mode run. Everyone's talking about the Damian Pierce run like they haven't seen that since Beastquake. I'm like, guys, literally last year, look at Damian Harris drag. I think it was like total of 5 or 6 defenders on his way to the end zone. Like, he finished the run. So, I always hesitant. I don't think that when Damian Harris is on the team, if he's healthy, they will ever not have it be 1A, 1B. Like, they're going to switch with possessions. It's going to be one guy coming in when the other guy is just kind of tired. I don't think that's going to change because Damian Harris is still great. I just think that when Stevenson is on the field, like you said, you just get a little something extra. Like, he makes more people miss. He's got a little more spark, I guess. It's hard to kind of put it into words, but you definitely see that there's something else there. And when he's a receiver, he's making more people miss than Damian Harris, who's usually just a check down guy that throw it to him on a swing. And unless he's bullying somebody over or stiff arming them, he's probably going to go down. So I don't think there's going to be much change in the backfield that we see once Harris is back and at full strength. But I think that we can certainly enjoy the Rhamondre Stevenson experience while it's happening, because we've seen that they're comfortable giving him the lion's share of carries when Harris is hurt. We saw it last week, obviously. I think we saw it last year in the Bills game when Damian Harris got hurt, and then he just took over and continued to dominate the Bills defense.
Yep.
When they knew it was coming. So I think maybe we'll see more touches from Kevin Harris, who I think is a
but
better
you're saying
back,
will they? I'm saying should they regarding.
I don't think so.
No, you like
I
the
think
split.
Damian Harris still gives you a lot when he's on the field. It's not like you're going down. It's just Rhamondre is definitely giving you a little bit more.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's enough to say, Damian, we're going to give Rhamondre 2 series and then and plus I feel like the team respects Damian Harris so much. I think he really does give you his own. That's the thing. They're both amazing because they give you something different when they're on the field. Like Damian is that tough dude who's a team leader and people love him. And the same thing is there with Rhamondre. But obviously with Rhamondre, he's a younger guy. It's more like he's special. You see the talent and they both give you a lot. So I don't think they should mess with the split. Although, there's clearly something there with Stevenson that you don't quite get with Damian Harris. But again, it's
fair
hard.
enough.
It's hard. It's a very hard discussion.
It really is. Maybe the only team with a better, with a clearly better running back tandem than the Patriots, and the Patriots certainly are among the best in the league, is Cleveland. It's hard to argue. Every advanced metric and the eye test will tell you that Nick Chubb's probably the most talented running back in the NFL.
Could have been a Patriot.
Could have been a Patriot.
Could have been a Patriot. I literally get goosebumps every time I think about it. And hindsight is 2020. I did like Sony at the time.
We'll take the Georgia back. That one. Anyway, and again, a lot of people did. There's no reason to look back there, but it is amazing that even with an offense that lacks a real threatening passing game, for Chubb to be able to do what he's doing on a regular basis, and then you've got Kareem Hunt behind him, who's also outstanding. Chubb feels like one of the few defense-proof running backs, regardless of facing 8-man boxes, stacked boxes, or whatever it is. He just gets his, and he's a threat to go at any time. So you can play it perfectly and still get beat here. This has to be a massive area of concern for the Patriots. Certainly, I'd imagine it's a massive concern for everybody because you're really not worried that Jakobi Brissett, who's played really well, you're not worried about him. You don't game plan for him. But you have to game plan for Chubb, and it still really hasn't worked. Most teams have not been able to slow down this running game.
And there's a reason, man. It reminds me of Matt Stafford and Cooper Kupp last year, where like Cooper was putting up video game numbers. And of course he's a fantastic receiver, but then when you look at the tape, and he still is like nothing. They need an offensive line. Stafford didn't fall off a cliff. He's just not getting affected. Anyway, what you saw last year was, yes, Cooper Kupp was making amazing things happen, but you're also seeing Matt Stafford look off defenders so they don't even know the ball's coming, holding safeties, like creating voids in coverage that Kupp then exploits because he's nuts and then gets yards after catch and, does his thing. That's what I see with this Cleveland backfield, where Nick Chubb is a phenomenal player who is going to take what you give him and then much more. But this Cleveland offensive line is so athletic, so smart. They work together so well in the ground game that a lot of, you see yards after contact numbers for Chubb. He's great after contact, but sometimes it's just people grabbing at him at the first level because the line is doing such a great job creating openings for him. So when you get that, that's why I think it's kind of defense proof, because one, you've got a great offensive line who can block for anybody. Like one, I think Cleveland scouts running backs extremely well, but you also see that anytime they put a running back there, the guy's averaging 5 or 6 yards a carry, no matter who's in the backfield. So I think in this conversation, their offensive line deserves a ton of credit. They can do outside zone. They run a ton of gap where they create a lot of numbers advantages. If you look at my Twitter, you can get some of the tendencies they have with their personnel groupings, and they're predictable, but they're so good it doesn't really matter. Because they can also execute so many things, and they're clever enough that they throw in just a few, counters that'll throw you off. But then you got Nick Chubb, who's going to find every single hole. He runs over defenders. He's a home run hitter. I mean, he's impossible to bring down. And the fact that usually he's at the second and third levels when people are trying to bring him down makes it that much harder. Then obviously you got Kareem Hunt, who's an excellent back in his own right. Great vision. He's got that kind of Rhamondre Stevenson thing where you see he's slipperier, but just in a different way, where Chubb is plenty hard to bring down, but Hunt's that guy who's going to make you look bad in space on top of being able to stiff arm you and take it to the crib. So, I mean, they're not going to stop. They're not going to stop these running backs. They were lucky and didn't have to face Hunt or Chubb last year when they played the Browns. And Dearness Johnson still had a pretty good game against them. And then the last time they did play the Browns, remember that was when John Jones had that crazy strip when Chubb broke off like a 60, 70-yard run, was about to score, and Jones comes up and punches it. So they're not going to stop these guys. I just want to make that perfectly clear right now. You just want to limit the explosive runs. And when they get into the red zone, you got to hunker down, because this is going to be a game where both teams are just going to try to possess the ball, make the drives, 10, 12 plays, take as much time as you can. This game is going to probably be 40 minutes shorter than it's supposed to be on the, in the real clock. But this is a tremendous backfield, and it's going to be a really tough task for Patriots run defense that looked good last week, but this is very different competition. Yeah.
No Myles Garrett this week, which is a relief for the offensive line and Bailey Zappe. Anything else about this Cleveland team that worries you or thinks? And again, the Patriots aren't good enough to just assume they can walk in anywhere and beat anyone. But this seems like a game they should have.
One thing I want to remind people, and I think this is very important, is the Browns are 2-3. They have not lost a single game by more than one possession, and their defense has been
competitive,
pretty terrible.
Yeah.
So that tells you how good their offense has been. It's easy to say cupcakes over the Browns and they have a bad defense, but like their offense is just that good. You got to be worried about David Njoku. Bell said that he was the best tight end that the Browns have had since his old pal Ozzie Newsome, who was the general manager for the Ravens for a very long time and one of Bill's close friends. Njoku is one of the best run blocking tight ends in the league. Like a lot of what the Browns do is they'll have, usually with power, you see it hit inside, like between the tackle and the offensive tackle. I'm sorry, the tight end, excuse me, where it's kind of inside that gap. What the Browns do is their guards usually pull all the way outside. So it's more of an outside zone type of run where you're getting, to the perimeter and then you're making guys pay down the sideline, because Njoku is so good at the point of attack. And then when you flip that into the passing game, the guy is massive. He's fast. He's extremely acrobatic. And I feel like he's really put it together the past couple seasons where his catching is more consistent. He's a good route runner and he's a reliable threat. They throw it to him on screens. They throw it to him downfield off play action. They'll use him in man situations in the slot so he can just move the chains. If it's like 3rd and 3 and they need a slant, just throw it to the big body. He's a phenomenal player. And he's someone that I think him and Kyle Duggar are going to have an amazing matchup, like TJ Hawkinson times 10. So Njoku is definitely somebody you got to watch. And someone who I feel like for some reason no one's talking about is Amari Cooper. I understand that this is a run-first team. A lot of their production is going to be off play action. But Jakobi's been pretty good when he's had to throw the ball. And Amari Cooper is still the most QB-friendly player in the league. I mean, he's great at beating defenders' leverage, where if you're inside trying to take that away, he'll do something in his stem to get you to flip your hips, and then he's wide open underneath you. He put J.C. Jackson in a freaking blender last week. He had made our old pal look pretty bad a few times. He had some really great reps against Sauce Gardner, who's been fantastic as a rookie. And it's going to be tough because John Jones is their best cover corner, but he's also smaller than Amari Cooper. So, that's going to be an interesting chess match if they match up. Jack Jones, I don't think that's a matchup you want to have. He's been fantastic, but there's also been times where smarter receivers have been able to turn him around. Don't want that matchup. Jalen Mills didn't shadow him last year. It was J.C. Jackson, mostly on Amari Cooper when they played the Cowboys last year. It was a lot of Jalen Mills versus CeeDee Lamb. So I'm not sure how that matchup would work out. I think it's the best physical matchup because Jalen Mills is their biggest guy, and Amari Cooper's, I think, like 6'2". He's a bigger X receiver. But his route running kind of worries me versus Jalen Mills, who is good, but, I think he's still kind of dealing with his injuries.
Yep.
So you're not sure what you're going to get from him on a snap-to-snap basis in man coverage. But Njoku and Amari Cooper are definitely two guys I don't want anybody to be sleeping on because they are fantastic players.
Yep. So again, the Browns offense has kind of exceeded expectations because nobody expected much out of Jakobi Brissett while they're waiting for Deshaun Watson if he, at some point returns, later this season. But again, Pat's 2-3. This is one you really kind of, you really want to have here. So hopefully they head in there and get the W. And again, this is a part of the schedule where there are some teams, the Patriots, even not full strength, hopefully could and should be able to handle. So we'll see. One thing we wanted to talk about to wrap it up, and going back to the Patriots quarterback situation, obviously Mac's been out the last little bit here with an injury, but you look back at that draft class now, and it's really getting interesting. Everyone saw Justin Fields playing last night. And, when you have those Thursday night games and things are going as poorly as they're going, everybody's a comedian on Twitter talking about the quality of the game and the quality of the passer, the guys throwing the passes there and, a scoreless half or what have you. But Justin Fields at times looks like, and I saw you tweet about it, he makes that terrific throw and you're like, this is why I can't quit this guy. Yeah. But then you see the rest of it, and it looks like a guy who doesn't look, for most of the time, he does not look like a guy who's going to ever get it. And that might sound unfair, but you do have to make quick judgments in the NFL here. And the question is how long the Bears will stick with him if they're not seeing enough progression. And he's back there, and he's just, yes, there's a bad offensive line. Yes, they don't have a great slew of receivers, but also he's taken 3 and 4 seconds to throw the ball, and he's when he gets off his first read, he freaks out and he runs right directly into pressure sometimes. So there's something that's not clicking for him right now. There was fears about Trey Lance as well when he first started. He didn't really get a chance to get things moving with the team, but the fact that the Niners brought back Jimmy Garoppolo says a lot about what they kind of felt about Trey Lance's development. We've seen Zach Wilson be all over the place as well. And Trevor Lawrence, now you're talking about Trevor Lawrence needing to, they're talking about him like he's going to be better. He's definitely going to be better. I don't think anybody expected Trevor Lawrence in year 2 to still be looking like a guy who's searching for himself. This was supposed to be a can't miss prospect. Then you throw in Mac. What's going on with this draft class right now? And are you rethinking how you might have felt about them? In Max and a quarterback controversy again, not really. Are you rethinking what we might have thought about this potential draft class before the draft started? Now that you've seen, seen them in action and started capacity to some degree.
I mean, well, one, usually I think it takes like 3 years before you really understand what you have in a prospect. Yeah. You also have to think of the instability that every single one of the rookie passers has had to deal with. No, Trey Lance obviously was a backup. Now he's hurt. Justin Fields has had a complete organizational shift where the team still doesn't quite look, as functional as you wanted them to be. Again, there's a lot of change for them. Trevor Lawrence obviously had one of the worst head coaching situations in NFL history that he had last year. And now they're still adapting, trying to figure out, what works for them in a new regime. Mac Jones lost his offensive coordinator, his quarterback's coach, his offensive line coach. Like the entire offensive staff is completely different. I know that we love to go to snap judgments and all that stuff in the NFL. And I understand that there's a degree of, well, what have you done for me lately? But none of these guys have had really ideal situations. Like you think of a best case scenario, Andrew Luck, can't miss prospect. He went into a team that was ready to contend for the playoffs. He elevated them for sure, but they had Chuck Pagano, who was a great leader and beloved, obviously had that team at a place where they were at least functional enough that they could put a rookie quarterback in playoff contention with the team around them. Even RG3, when he got into the league, before obviously I think they mishandled him physically, but he was in a system that was perfect for him. And that's when Shanahan all caught on and people were saying, oh, RPOs, read option and all that stuff. When you're in the right system and things are catered to you, that matters a lot. I don't think any of these quarterbacks, Mac is probably in the best position. Zach Wilson's in a great position. He's just struggled with injury, when obviously that organization is rebuilding. And again, Mac had the best situation. He went to the Pro Bowl. He wound up in the playoffs last year. Like that was not even a great Patriots team, but it was good enough that they were at least in position to contend late in the year. So I think it's too early to decide, especially before we even get to the halfway point in the season. A lot of teams no one's had a bye week yet. So I would say pump the brakes a little bit. Again, with Justin Fields, I still don't think he's necessarily being put in a position where he can maximize all his strengths. And when you see guys miss and they look still like they haven't figured it out, you need to be confident to play in this league and at least understand that there's some level of security or consistency, something that you can rely on. For him, that's been his legs, and they don't use his legs. So, at least give him something that you can build on, and then, you start.
They don't use his arm either, but that's fine.
That's what I'm saying.
He just doesn't throw the ball.
Give the guy a shot to do what he's actually good at. Yeah. I would say it's too soon to put the jury out, but I think plenty of them have shown promise.
So have shown promise, but it is for when you have quarterbacks go 1, 2, 3 in a draft, and then So, some people even thinking that the Fields could have gone as high as 5 or 6 as well. This was a heavy, quarterback class. It might be too early to turn out the lights completely, but it's definitely fallen a little bit short of expectations. Putting you on the spot here, let's redraft it. What order do they go in?
I think Trevor Lawrence still goes first.
Yep.
He's a freak, man. And we watch him on tape, and he's smart enough. He's got it where you can see he could be a consistent passer. He's just got to get there.
But the and then is the tough question. What happens after Lawrence? And I do think, agree, he's still the guy.
Yeah, I think it's Mac second. I think because now I think people appreciate the consistency that he brings. Like, yes, his decision-making has been bad at times, but you look at the other guys and you're like, at least you see him. He can command the offense. Like the Patriots offense looked like it was well-oiled and under control for the most part, like as soon as he got there. Were there gaffes and have there been mistakes? Absolutely. But the guy walked in and looked like at least he'd been in the league for a couple of years in terms of how he got everybody on the same
And that
page.
was always the thought. Mac has the highest floor, but you thought other had higher ceilings. Now you're starting to question the ceilings of the other players.
Right. And that's where I think Mac is more not a safe pick, because I really do think he's going to end up being probably the second best quarterback in that class. But yeah, I think he's the guy who would probably go second. Third, it's tough. It's really, really tough because you got Lance and Wilson who have both been injured. Obviously, Field who's been injured, but when he's been on the field, it's been a dumpster fire. Not necessarily all his fault. I would still say Fields second or Fields third, but I think you try to just cater to him more. You put him in a system where you look at what he did in college, like what the Patriots are doing right now. They completely changed what they did in year 2, and they did it to cater to what Mac did in college. What Fields did in college and what he's doing in the NFL, some of it is just not sustainable because they were playing teams where everybody was better than who they lined up against. I get that. But you at least try to put him in similar positions and then adapt to it at the NFL level, and that hasn't happened. So I go Fields third. I go Wilson after that just because we've seen more of him, and I have seen.
And Lance is more of an unknown at this point.
Exactly. Like that's literally the only reason. But yeah, I'd go Lawrence, Jones, Mac. Calling Mac Jones just sounds kind of weird.
Yeah.
Fields, Wilson by default, and Trey Lance.
There you have it. Well,
wait, no, Davis Mills third.
That's what I was wondering. Were you going to pull? Were you going to go deep?
I was missing somebody.
Yeah.
Davis Mills third. Yeah.
That's crazy.
I know, that's insane. I mean, he's so much fun to watch. If I have to watch anybody from that rookie class, those are the 3 guys I'm going with. It's either Trevor Lawrence. Honestly, I might put Davis Mills above Mac in terms of like most fun to watch. Yeah. That's just because he's letting it rip to Brandon Cooks all the time. It's so awesome to watch. Yeah. But yeah, there we go.
There you have it. Well, we'll see what happens Sunday. Mac again, trending towards maybe. We'll see about that. But another Zappe game. Most likely for the Patriots trying to move to 3-3. We'll have recaps of the game here on Patriots CLNS, so make sure you check that out. Taylor will be back with us after the game, maybe Monday or Tuesday. We'll break down some of the action, so make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel if you haven't already. Turn on your notifications. That way when we go live, ding, you get notified. And of course, make sure you subscribe and follow and purchase our terrific sponsor, Athletic Greens. I just sent it over to Taylor, and I'm sure he's already working on getting himself some. But again,
I'm so excited. I already got it ordered. I'm hyped.
Are you good? So that is good. And again, reclaim your health, arm your immune system, convenient daily nutrition, 1 scoop of Athletic Greens. We're talking about 75 vitamins and minerals here in a cup of water every day. That's it. No need for a million different pills and supplements. We're talking about improved gut health, nervous system, immune system, energy, recovery, focus, aging, all of these things. Take advantage of our special offer. Go to athleticgreens.com/garden and get a year supply of immune supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. Again, check it out, athleticgreens.com/garden. Thanks, Taylor. I'm John Zannis. We will see you guys after the game on Sunday.